everybody. Welcome to the Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life TV show. Hi, it's me, Dr. Davia Shepherd. I host a women's group called Ladies Power Lunch, and it's a wonderful place to which I obviously am inviting you, where you can come. It's for all women in business, and some of our members, they are entrepreneurs, some are solopreneurs, some are women who own small businesses, some of them own bigger businesses, some of them are in nonprofit, some of them are in corporate leadership. It really, really doesn't matter. We even have members who are retired who've just come back to give back to the community of women. But there's one thing that stands out about us, and that is that we are an amazing group of women and a few outstanding men who've gotten together and who've decided that when it comes to supporting each other, that's what we are about. And that when we support each other, every single person wins. And one more thing, it's not that we're supporting each other because, oh, if I support you, then I'll get a benefit from you or some kind of quid pro quo kind of situation. It's not that at all. We're just supporting each other because we can and we want to, and it's awesome, and everybody wins. So I invite you, come join us. Our Facebook group is growsmarter.harder.com/Facebook. And you can come on over and have conversations just like the one that we're going to have today, every single day. So welcome. Today, our very special guest is Alana Heim. Did I get that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Alana Heim. And she was one of our outstanding speakers that we had on the most recent Ladies Power Lunch Spring Summit. She talked to us about prosperity and human design and amazing things like that. And the theme for our summit is Grow Your Business Smarter. So today, Alana is going to share with us a little bit more. She's going to dive a little bit more deeply into what it really means to grow our businesses smarter, especially in this unusual climate that we find ourselves in, how we can build our businesses unbreakable. So welcome, Alana. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yay. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. So can you share with everybody, tell us a little bit about who you are and explain to us about the amazing work that you're doing in the world.
Yes. So I am a certified public accountant, and you might think, oh my gosh, wasn't it tax season? Not for me anymore, because that is the part of my workforce, life force energy that I couldn't sustain. So playing with numbers, being the accountant, you talking about all the beautiful women in their businesses that they support and serve. I got to do that more from that strategic place, right? Preparing taxes, doing retirement planning and tax planning and all the pieces. And what I found is it really wasn't aligned with who I am, who I be. And I had to shift my way of working in the world, to create my business, to actually be the guide, to help people navigate more of the energies around their business, their work, their life, their money, because it was what I didn't see happening in the financial industry. Nobody talked to you about money in the way of, how do you want to co-create with it? How do you want to play with it? How do you feel about money? How does the emotional energies and the fears start to come in to really impact you? So I could have clients who were so successful, right? $1 million business. And then they were super angry because they owed all these taxes, right? And they didn't have the money to pay for the taxes. So these pieces where so often we judge ourselves for who we think we should be. And it always ties to having the big house and having the cars and having the big paycheck. But the people I saw and worked with, they didn't financially have it all together. They were always still just a paycheck away from, let's say, losing it all, or they already spent all the money and they didn't have the taxes set aside, or their kids were going to go to college. And how are they going to have these pieces because they weren't saving? So what I really saw was we have this facade, this story that we tell ourselves of who we should be. And really, when it comes to aligning, we've got to let go. And so even for me, I had to let go of working in that way, because I saw people really need a deeper support and understanding of themselves so they can show up fully, unbreakably in the world.
Wow. So you've gone from working as a CPA to working with us more on the energy of our money. Would that be right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like
and it was so fun because this is, like 7 years ago that I started.
Mm-hmm.
And we're definitely in a new space of consciousness evolving where people get it. But back then I could talk about having a relationship with money and I got blank stares. And so I learned how to really speak the language people could understand and start to help them to see how important the energy is and the spirituality and some of these pieces. Most of my clients back then, they were more spiritually acclimated and they had a harder time with money. So they wanted that support. But when the pandemic happened, I could feel the shift was I really need to help people who earn money and they're not aligned with their job, right? And the pandemic kind of opened that, where people who wanted to quit but were too scared, they couldn't. And either their job left them, right? They were forced to make the change. And it always comes back to that stability piece, that safety and support and all the things that money we think we'll get. If suddenly it shows up like, oh, I can pay the bills. And so I'll only leave this job if there's another job waiting for me, right? Like we're so scared to take the leap. And that's where I've really started to be that bridge to help people see that financially there is a spiritual component, that we can have strategy, but we also have to really surrender and be in flow and live from our inner knowing of who we are and our purpose. And I get to help them see that. So usually the clients that I work with now, they have that stability, but their soul is starting to long for something different. They don't want to be the financial advisor or the banker or the realtor or the attorney, right? Like there's something more. And I love helping in that way of transition.
So tell me, who is the ideal person that would come to you and get the very best service? Who's your optimal client?
The people who are stuck in worry, and they really do worry about how will I pay the bills? And it's like that how question comes up. So there's this transition place that maybe there is a change in the way in which they want to work. So they're sensing, I'm not happy doing this anymore, but yeah, everything's taken care of and I don't know how to leave this space. And I'm too worried that what if it doesn't work, right? All the beliefs start to kind of come in, the fears start to really show up. And a lot of us, and I say us as in the women, those of us who have moved into being our own boss and having our own business, that's not an easy transition. That's like the scariest thing. And then even when we get into the space of doing our business, we're still afraid of, well, how big will I get? Now I have to be seen, and how will clients find me? So I love helping people to break out of that box of worry and really start trusting from within who they be. That's why the energy parts are so important, because some of the energies aren't even ours. Right? It's our parents, it's our siblings, it's our husbands or our wives or our partners. It's the people in our lives that sometimes our energies, we take them on and then think that they're ours and they hold us back.
You mentioned that in the very beginning, when you were doing your own transition, that it wasn't that easy for people to understand what it is that you're talking about. Can you tell us a little story about something that happened back then, like somebody who maybe you tried to explain to about this new direction of your business, who it took them a little while to get it, but maybe after a while they fell right in line? Tell us a little bit about how that worked.
Yeah. So I kind of laugh because there's one that sticks out where, so my business is called Prosperity Alignment. And I did a soul branding journey to come up with this essence of who I am to really create this business. And for having at the time, like 15 plus years in the financial arena. And I'm also a certified financial planner. So just having this depth of the money and the planning and all of these pieces. And I was explaining more about human design, which is the energies. It's a blueprint for who we be. And it helps us to understand more how we feel energies and also how we put them out in the world. And that I'm this bridge in helping people to know themselves and co-create with money. And I had this woman ask me, so is this like an MLM business? I was like, what? She's like, yeah, like, where did you get this? Like, is this, you're just like selling this business? And I'm like, what? No, like I'm creating this. This is like who I am. But she didn't understand it. And she just thought like this had to be some marketing, I don't know. And so it really kind of baffled me, but it also helped me to see, okay, I'm like really going up a mountain that's even bigger than I thought to explain myself or explain what I'm doing. And so I learned to use language that was more financially what people could wrap their heads around, right? I didn't talk about the spiritual pieces. I didn't go into the woo-woo because I knew no one understood that. And so it was just these little pieces that I could help them realize with money, or how to see it differently and kind of approach it in a way that was more tangible, they could kind of wrap their head around. And it's been a beautiful evolution. I'm in a B&I group, so it's with many industries that are hardcore banking, attorneys, realtors, right? Like, so I couldn't go in there and start talking spiritually about money because they don't work with money that way, right? If I'm going to create an unbreakable business and have them be part of my sales team, I have to speak their language. So that was very helpful. And then the more that I really stepped into owning who I am, I could find ways to plant seeds and help to explain things just a little different, maybe like put a little spiritual piece out there. And more it's been able to shift and evolve to seeing some people get it, some don't. And that helps me to know who my people are.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, I mean, I feel as though what you do is something that would be in high demand, because lots of people want to understand their money better, want to understand their relationship better with money, want to have more money. And so I see how people would want to have you come in and take a look at their situation. If you were able to just look at the world and give the world a big hug, and one perhaps statement of advice, what's the one thing that you think that most of us, when it comes to money, are doing wrong?
Well, that we're already judging ourselves for thinking it's wrong. Because even from my industry, of all these experts, they get it wrong a lot, in the sense that they're telling you what you should do, and they don't know you. They don't know what you really need. They only have the box that they know how to put you in. And the box says, this is the right way. So the biggest piece that I see is that we judge ourselves for how we think we should do it, even if it doesn't feel aligned and true. So for example, the biggest thing that I hear over and over from clients is that they usually are terrible with money, in the sense that they didn't start retirement and they don't have a 401k and they don't have, right? They'll tell me all the things they don't have. But one client, for example, she was like, oh, we didn't start saving early. We don't have retirement. But what she does have is a thriving business. That she has a business, but her husband has a business. And they also had the ability, for having this business that was successful, they put their money into real estate. They had rental properties. And so we sometimes take that big box and say, well, I'm not in it because here's what I think should be in it financially. It doesn't mean if you have a 401k that you're suddenly successfully financially set, right? But it also doesn't mean that if you have real estate, you can think that you don't have a retirement. You've already been investing. You have actually property that is cash flow producing, and it's not locked away in something that the government has their hands in, right? So to me, there's so many different levels. I've had to unlearn a lot of what I was taught, because I see things differently now. That if you never got into retirement, what if it's because you didn't believe in the product? You didn't believe in the whole of how that system ran, and you didn't want any part of it. So where we judge ourselves for how we've been told we should do it, that usually is what's wrong, right? We all have our own way of creating, and we don't have to follow the masses and what they tell us we should be doing.
I enjoy this trend of thought very much. Just as an aside, as part of our Ladies Power Lounge, we also have a book club. And this month, we're reading the 5th agreement. Last month, we read the 4th agreement. So obviously, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I was listening this morning, and the invitation was for us to unlearn the ways that we've learned things, or to at least look at things a little bit more critically, because the way we've learned things is just an agreed upon model that a few people decided this is the way that we're going to do things. So it's interesting that you're disrupting, turning on its absolute head, the way that I've thought about retirement in the past, just in the space of this short conversation. That's really fascinating.
Right. And again, the things that we could do as planners is, oh, you should never pull money out early because then you'll be penalized and that's a waste of money. But the reality is, if you, let's say, have this opportunity and you need that cash and you know that this opportunity, it is so aligned in who you be, and maybe it's to start your business or grow your business or invest in something. What's a 10% penalty if you're going to, let's say, 2x, 5x, 10x your investment? Who gives a crap if you just paid the government 10,000 or 2,000 or whatever it is, if you know you're going to earn so much more, right? But that's what we've been taught. And then that's what we teach you is, oh, you can't touch your money. It's your money. But we deem it as bad. And then you feel bad if you have to take it. But the reality is it's your money. Why do you want to hoard it away for the next 20, 30 years if something right here, right now, you want to create on this planet and it will make a difference now? Why don't we see the value of the now, right? Instead, we hoard and hold on to this nest egg that will grow one day. But at that point, what are you even investing in your retirement account? Is it anything that you believe in? Is it even aligned with who you be, right? And so if you have that power that you can take back and say, I want to do something good on this planet right here, right now, why can't you?
I love that. I love example. And while you were mentioning that, brought to mind the story that one of my favorite mentors told us so many, many years ago about how broke she was, and she was in an apartment in New York City and she had an eviction notice on her door, and lots of fun challenges were showing up in her life financially. And of course, there were many things that she taught us about collaboration, which has become so near and dear to my heart out of that story. But part of that story that she told was how she actually went into her 401k and actually used that to grow her business to what it is now. So maybe she took a few $1,000s out, but now she has a $50 million a year business. I mean, that's an extreme example.
But it's what's possible. You know what I mean? Because you take the risk, and the piece that the human design system brings is every single one of us have a unique way of making a decision. So guess what? Most of the time, we don't know how to make a decision, or someone will tell us we're making the wrong decision. So we learn to not trust this part of ourselves. But what your mentor did was she made the decision. And once she made the decision, she took the action. And it was exactly the dominoes to fall to get her where she was meant to be. And this is what I share with clients. Once you decide, that's the hardest part, is to make the decision. But once you do that, the universe will conspire in your favor to make it so. And this is so backwards from the way the financial world works, because the financial world says, wait a minute, you can't make a decision until we pen and paper it out. And you tell me your goal and how you're going to get there. And we're going to do all these projections, right? So the thing with the financial world is we've been taught to only go at it left brain and to say, this is how it will happen. Therefore, now I can make the decision to say yes because I see the proof. But the reality is, what I've had to unlearn is that is not the way. That's what we were taught. But when we make that decision and when we really are leaning into more of the right brain flow and creativity, the trust, the surrender, these pieces that are so hard for us as humans because we were never taught this. But when you trust that this is true for you and it's so aligned, you make that decision, the proof starts to show up even when you didn't know how it would come to you.
I love having conversations with people like you because I am very, very left brain. I mean, if you'd met me maybe 10, 15 years ago, totally different woman coming from corporate in a research environment where if you need to tell me something, you better show me your double-blinded placebo-controlled trials or we're not talking at all. And now here I am having these flowy conversations about the energy of money. It's really, really different, but I love having conversations with people like you because you understand what it takes to make that kind of shift, to actually have, in a way, a transformation in the way that you look at the world in order to embrace the abundance that is available to you. So that's awesome.
Yes. And I want everybody watching to know that this is how it is for all of us, right? We learn a certain path, and there comes a point when we realize the path is done. We have to shift, but we don't know how to make that shift. And that's where the fears come up. And that's where I had to leave the financial world and being this CPA and the doer, because as a human design projector, My energy is really this gift of being the guidance, right? To help guide the energies and not to be the doer, which is what I was. And it was burning me out. And it kept me in such a rigid place of thinking, this is how it has to be, right? And just like you said, it's kind of like in the Mandalorian show, how I always kind of laugh when they say, this is the way, because like that's, in a sense, that's where we all are, this robotic, systematic, like just follow because this is what you're supposed to do, right? If everybody was walking and you're over here going, I don't want to walk, but they're like, this is the way, this is what you're supposed to do. We as humans just follow along. Mm-hmm. And so I see that with all of the systems that are changing. I see that with taxes. I see it with, we kind of are voluntold to do things, and it becomes the system because we think that somewhere that's really the rule, but I don't know where the rule came from. And nobody does, even in corporate. You see it sometimes where people are like, sorry, my hands are tied. This is just how it is. Like, and I'm like, but we're human. Anyway, everything's so subjective. You can make a change, right? And even in our businesses, we can have parameters and policies in place. We can say, this is my rate. But at the end of the day, if you really want to help someone, you can change your rate, right? It's all subjective. So the thing that locks us into thinking it's objective is our beliefs, the way we were taught on that pathway. And there comes a point when we realize this doesn't really feel true anymore. Something feels off, right? And that's your inner intuitive parts starting to come back alive. Those are the parts of you that start to tell you, this is off. There's something off about this situation, this person. Even though this deal sounds great in my business and this would really help me and catapult me, I don't feel it. And this same intuitive part comes through financially, where your expert across from you, your advisor, your planner, whoever it may be, they're going to come from this box perspective that says, this is what you have to do. But if your inner parts say, I don't feel this, then you have to listen to that and you have to take your power back and tell them, no, I'm not doing that. Right. And that's the part that I see. We give our power away with money. We let other people take it, do what they want. We get upset when the stock market crumbles and crashes or this happens. But I want you to think about, did you ever even want to do that? Because if you had an inner sense that was like, no, don't do it, and you did it anyway, then this is part of the learning journey you chose for yourself. You wanted to have the experience to give away your power. So at some point you could realize you get to take it back.
That's interesting. You mentioned about the way we make decisions and you touched a little bit on human design. But to be honest, a lot of our viewers, they've never even heard the words human design before. Would you share your perspective on how human design can actually help us to get closer to understanding our money?
Right. So it is based on astrology. It's based on the Chinese I Ching, Judaic Kabbalah. It's got the chakra system. So there's all these different systems within this human design system. Really what we're looking at is, when were you born? We're taking a snapshot of the planets, their positions, and we're starting to look at these 64 hexagrams through the I Ching of what energies are you, what energies might you feel from the world around you. And really, we're all the parts of the whole, but there's certain things that we're going to learn through our life to experience in certain ways. It's part of your life path, your life's work, your purpose. We've got some soul aspects, things that you chose to really embark and learn upon in this lifetime. What are your gifts, your talents? How do you make these decisions? Where is it that you really are intuitive because you can feel the world around you? How can you learn to express and use these energies through your chakra system, right? So sometimes there are people who can talk and they can just command a room. And these are manifestors or manifesting generators. They have this ability to have a motorized throat where they can just go talk to a stranger and nobody bats an eye. But then there are the other types where generators, projectors, and reflectors, we can have undefined throats, or we can have throats where it's not motorized. And if you and I went up to a stranger and just started talking, they would look at us like we're crazy, because there's an energy and there's a flow. There's a dynamic to how the energies are meant to be used and how we can kind of make tweaks. And what I've found, this is my perspective, this is how we flow with prosperity, is when you start to know part of the energy in the way in which you're designed, you get to shift into really allow yourself to flow with it rather than resist it. So there are different archetypes. There's different ways of perceiving the energies. There's so many people that teach human design now, and everyone has a different spin. There's variations. So there's a variation called Gene Keys. I also explore. It's taking the same Chinese I Ching, these 64 hexagrams, gates, Gene Keys, however you want to label them. And what we're looking at is how do they relate to you? How do you relate to them? How do you get to explore these energies and recognize and start to intuitively notice them, have awareness around them, and then use them in the way that is most helpful for you and your being in your business, in your relationships, in your life with money, right? Because these are the moments where if you had, just like you gave the example 15 years ago, you would have never been in this space. I wouldn't have either. No way, right? I was indoctrinated in like CPA, accounting world. This is how it goes. But if you had told me that I was going to make changes and end up where I am, no way. Like this was not on my radar. It started to naturally evolve. And the more I've learned about myself and have really, because I have to, it's part of my nature. I have to dig deeper for myself, for my clients. I want to get more to the root. And when I do, I get to start exploring. So when I left being the CPA and started prosperity alignment, I was more in alignment with my being. That when my dad brought his fear at me of how are you going to make money and how are you going to get clients and how, that I could feel the energy of that fear and be like, ooh, that's yours. Just go ahead and take it. Right. I don't need that. But my younger self would have totally let that overwhelm me. And then that energy would have been stuck in my field. And I would have felt so afraid, like, ooh, I can't do this. That's ridiculous. Why would I even think I should quit my job? Because I quit it all. I didn't take any of it with me. I didn't take any clients with me. I didn't take any bookkeeping, accounting, anything. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm just going to go start fresh. And that's not what we all do, right? We all have to do ourselves. And sometimes there's that crossover and transition, right? We either cold turkey it or we still do it and we run the business on the side, or we're trying to, wait for it to flip so we can then quit and then have the business. Only you know what feels aligned, right? My way is not the right way, but it was the way that I had to do it. And I did. And it's been slow going. But at the same time, I was going at the pace that I needed to sustain myself, right? I'm an energy type that could burn out. And we all have these parts where the energies can take over us if we're not clear what we're feeling is ours versus not ours. And human design kind of helps to start to paint a picture so you know and can feel and now explore what that is for you.
Interesting. When I was first introduced to human design, I thought, okay, it's another one of those weird things that you learn about, like Enneagram and
DISC and
Myers-Briggs. Okay, so it's another one. That's fine. Let me do it. I'll see what it says. It'll be a nice way to spend an afternoon and we'll move on. And it was pretty precise and very, very accurate in a way that made me raise my eyebrows a little bit. And so being the type that I am, I went down that rabbit hole for quite a while. What was your experience like when you discovered human design at first?
Yeah. And often I say it discovered me, right? Like it came to me. And it was at a point when I kind of realized I needed to still be learning while I was working. So I listened to every summit there was. I was just in the space of like, okay, I'm sitting here all day, keying stuff in, doing stuff, but it's like, I've done it for 15 years. It's more just repetition. It's not like stimulating. So I was listening to all these summits so I could learn things that really I didn't know people who, let's say, had autoimmune disease, but I was listening to it. And I was listening to all these things because I just had this sense that I am supposed to know certain information to be able to share it when the time is right. And that is when I happened to be on some sort of like more business development or self-development type of summit or podcast or certain piece and found human design and learned that being this projector, I'm not a doer. And it was really at this perfect timing. I had twins, and I think I learned human design, then had the twins. And now I can see it. It was all perfect. It was so synchronistic, but I got to work from home and my twins were born April 21st, which was like, I made it through tax season, full term, and made it all the way past. But then I got to work from home until basically the next January. And there is a piece in the design, in human design, that you learn about your environment. I am meant to work from home. But since I was already past a certain point in my life, being 35, I'd already had a Saturn return. Some of these pieces aren't going to make sense. But there's a point in our life where there's no looking back. right? And once I got to work from home, when I went back to work, everything changed. I was not meant to work at an office anymore. And so that was the start of everything kind of shifting and me realizing this isn't right. I can't do this. And I was more agitated, more irritated, and had to just shift it because I was doing, that's not who I be. I'm a beer, right? We're all beers, except there's certain pieces and different ways in which we work. So the blessing is having my husband say, just quit, go start a business. But that really triggered some of what I was taught growing up, right? I had a dad who worked for the same company his whole life. Anytime I changed jobs, it was like the loyalty wasn't there, or what are you doing? All these pieces, again, things that I taught I had to unlearn. So the human design helped me to really start trusting that I'm emotional. That's where I make decisions from, that I also can be in my head, but I have to learn to shift from this place into this other part of myself that I totally rejected and repressed. And so to know these pieces about myself, my husband, my kids, my clients now, I'm able to really understand myself and honor myself and help them honor themselves too. And even when it feels overwhelming and some of our triggered responses and parts of our old self that we have to unlearn, it gets messy. It's not always easy. And I will tell you that in business, when we own our business, this is when the stuff comes up the loudest, because being on this journey is a transformational process, right? Having a business, being seen, it is going to trigger these parts of yourself to help you grow. And it's a beautiful journey, and you'll love it because you'll find more liberation and freedom and peace and, ups and downs, but like the growth that is there is profound.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's really an interesting way that you came to human design. Folks who are watching our show, they like to have some practical advice, to have some stuff that they can work on so that they can actually see something move forward in their lives and in their business. We're talking today about being unbreakable in our business and having, as your business name suggests, aligned prosperity. And so if you were to give us some do's and don'ts, some stuff that we can take away from this and go work on, what would those be?
Do go inward, right? Don't go outward, which is going to probably be a flip for most of us, because this is where we tend to go for our decisions. We want to know what the peanut gallery thinks. We want to know if they're going to judge us. They're going to criticize us if we do something. We don't want to upset them. We learn to people please, right? So don't do that anymore. This isn't where your answers are. They're here. And you already know exactly what is true for you. But this feels like it's going to come in and attack you or judge you or criticize you or reject you, right? All these pieces. And I will tell you that there's a lot shifting in the world. It's getting noisier out here. So if you really want to be grounded and nurtured and supported, you have to go inward. Then you'll learn to just kind of be oblivious to the noise, because it doesn't matter, right? You feel someone's fear and you're like, oh, okay, it's there. I don't care. Like, I'm going to do me. And if they comment, do ask questions, right? We don't have to project out our triggered responses that are like judging right back, right? We can ask the question, oh, why do you think I shouldn't do it? Or, oh, is there something you have wisdom that you want to share? Or you have something, right? Because we can invite them in. We can invite whatever they want to say so they feel heard. But we also don't have to let it limit us, because usually that external noise, it's just coming from their own experience. And especially in business, you'll get a lot of people who will tell you what did not work in their business and what you shouldn't do because, oh, I tried that and it didn't work, right? That's all you hear. And it's negative, but at the same time, it's part of their journey, which is not yours. So do go inward, do be curious in asking questions. And you can ask questions too of the universe, of source, of God, of open-ended questions in the way of, what would it take for this to happen? And just let it go, right? You don't have to think in the way of, oh, I have to make this happen. And right, because the energy is not meant to go here and you to then make the decision. It actually is for things to show up and come to you, for you to respond, receive the invitation, receive some sort of insights that help you to be able to respond to it. And a lot of times we think that mentally, this is what that's for. And I want you to know that do use this outward. This is your antenna for manifesting. So what you send out, it's going to come back around in the way that you can now respond to it, receive it, ask questions, right? And sit with whatever it is. Some of us can make decisions instantly. That's not many of us. Some of us, I'm emotional. I need to ride my emotional wave. So if you feel emotional when decisions come up, you may be emotional. Allow yourself the time and space to really sit and feel and process, right? If you've been trained that in business, you have to make a quick decision and that already causes you anxiety, you got to let that go, right? Don't listen to that anymore. Go here and start really listening to what you need, what your body needs. Does it need to go for a walk so that you're more grounded, you're in your body and you're not floating away? It's being mindful of these parts of yourself.
I love those do's and don'ts. Those are very, very, they invite you to be individual. They're not a one size fits all sort of situation. If you were to give us one piece of homework, something that we can do until we see you again, because of course you will be invited back, I'm sure, by popular demand, what would that one piece of homework be?
To sit in presence. And that is freaking hard. That is the piece where even if you were to sit here and pick something, and keep your eyes open, because here's the thing, everyone will tell you that meditation is great, and it is, but with your eyes closed, you're going to drift away and you will not be physically present in the moment. So if you could just sit and even just pick somewhere and see if you can just take in and just notice and be in the moment of noticing your breath, hearing sounds in the room, you'll start to have the awareness of when you disappear, when a mind takes over and says, oh, but what about this thing? And I've got to, right? Or maybe you start to notice like you're really anxious because like, I don't know what to do, is just sitting here. But it's the moment that holds you. And it's where in business, if we don't know how to get present, then we're not going to know how to calm our nervous system. We're not going to know how to stay out of the mind, and the mind will take us down rabbit holes. Or it's why even when we're present with a client, we still drift of the thing that we forgot to do, or we're with our kids, and right. So all of these pieces, if you can just practice, and I say pick a spot, keep it simple. This is a practice of para. It's kind of what the martial artists do when they really have found their chi and they are in their center. You are fully aware. You are fully present. You are able to take things in, and you are able to start to see things you wouldn't have noticed before, like this opportunity that was right here. But if you were so busy and I've got to get here, you missed it. And so this is how we start to see the things where it's like the shiny gold coin on the ground. And we're like, when did that show up? It's always been there. But when we're not present, we walk past it every day and we never see it. And that's where the mastery will come in being present. Because if you start to get triggered, you're going to notice it. You're going to notice when your emotions turn on. You're going to notice when your thoughts take you down a rabbit hole. So that would be the thing to practice. And you could set a timer if you wanted, just see if you could do it for 30 seconds, see if you do it for a minute. You can blink, of course, right? But it's just this level of really tuning into all that is right here. And if you feel unsafe, why? Right? Where are we carrying something from our past where we don't feel safe? And that happens in our business. But I'm right here sitting in my chair having a beautiful conversation with you. Why wouldn't I feel safe? Right? This is so amazing. But if I'm feeling agitated and afraid, it's because I've brought something into this moment and I'm not truly here to enjoy this.
I love that. I'm sure our viewers and our listeners will really take this advice and will do this exercise. And I'd love for those of you who are members of our Ladies Power Lunch community to come on over into the group and drop a comment about how this conversation has hit you and how you have benefited from doing the exercise that is recommended today. So,
yeah. And can I just add?
Sure.
Especially with money. Right? If you just sat, you have to go pay some bills, like get present first, because then you're going to have awareness and you pick up that bill if you're like, right. And the anxiety, because the thing about money, it's never been about presence. it takes us to our past or it takes us to the future.
Mm-hmm.
In both places, we worry or we have fear around it, right? Worry and anxiety of what's coming and we don't understand or don't know, and fear about what's already happened and we think it's going to come and get us again, right? But presence gives you the awareness of when you start to shift in either direction.
Beautiful. That is outstanding. And I think if we can get away from the fear and anxiety surrounding money, mm-hmm. that's for so many people. I mean, even patients that I see, there are very few things that cause that level of anxiety, and that fear around money is a big trigger for a lot of people. So really important conversation for us to have, certainly today, but definitely for us to keep having, because I think with repetition, we really get it. So our show is called Grow Your Business Smarter, but it's also called Live Your Optimal Life. So Alana, what are you doing for fun? What's fun for you?
I like being in nature. Mm-hmm. Like there's something about going outside. And lately I've even just started like laying on the ground because I don't know, I just felt like this is home, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of gave me a new perspective of just seeing that people aren't homeless, right? They're probably smarter than we are in the sense that they don't have to deal with all the systems, but like they get to just be and be really connected. So jumping on the trampoline with my kids, like it's like their favorite thing. If I go outside and then I start to like try and sneak on, they're like, Mom's on the trampoline, right? And then we get to jump. And so anything that's like, I don't know, being a kid again. And mm-hmm. I'm blessed to still have young kids. So they help me stay in this more grounded, fun place. Whereas mm-hmm. I know how easy it is for us as adults to be like very rigid and I have to do this and I have to do this. And we never just stop to be present and smell the roses and go jump on a trampoline because, you know, I don't know, things just usually limit us.
That's true. How old are your kids?
The twins are almost 9. Okay. And then my oldest will be 15. So still have some time and still, you know, where I'm like, this is what it's about. This is what life and the journey is. Like, enjoy and not get stuck on all the ways things should be done and have to be done. Like, they teach me every day to let go of some of my own limitations and ways that I think things have to be done.
That's lovely. Yeah, I know having children is one of the things that brings me back to remembering what's fun. So that's great. Any books or TV shows or anything that is a life hack for you that you think maybe you might want to share with us? Podcasts? So
I read, and it's usually self-development. So I love that you guys already like did the 4 agreements, and I have been reading the 5 personality pattern, and this is more how we have our energetic defenses, and it's fascinating. So for me, like right now, my focus has been working on my relationship with my husband, our communication. So some of the things I've been listening to are along those lines. So the 5 love languages guy, like he has all kinds of really great books. And the one that I had started talks more about how do we just be in the space of love, right? Everywhere we go, that we're having this generosity and coming from love. And that's not easy. So that's what I'm working on is, you know, not being in that space of like getting attacked, but being more curious and being from the heart. And yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. At the end of every show, we pull a card. And today, I figured we were talking about, you know, abundance and prosperity and that sort of thing. So I pulled out this particular deck. It's called Divine Abundance by Tosha Silver. And she's the author of a book called It's Not Your Money. I love that book. We probably read it once a year in book club because she just, in such a wonderful way, talks about how money is actually divine, not the root of all evil, as many of us have been taught, and that it's actually here for us to do good in the world. So I absolutely adore her. And I pulled this card. It says clearing, and it says, as true offering arises, it becomes easy to let go. You start to trust that more will always arrive. You shift from mine to God's. Such freedom. What does that bring up for you?
The clearing space is usually what we're always after, in the sense that we have to do it mentally and emotionally, but we don't always know how. But it's always easy to say like, okay, if I wanted to bring in furniture to this room, clearly I have to clear what's already here to make space. But in our brains, we don't do that, right? We just keep packing in more furniture until the room, our mind is so full. And it's the clearing that we're doing, right? So even to be present, you're clearing the clutter of the mind and the old energies, and you're making space. And the space is actually the void, right? The space is the place where intentions go, and now we can manifest and create something new. And it's not ours, right? It's God's, it's sources. It's this bigger picture that we're just stepping into. And usually we're so afraid of the void, but that's where all creation comes from, right? The all is one is all, and then the nothingness, the no thingness, it's like there's nothing there, but something is going to get created. And so even when we look in the future, we get afraid of that. I don't know what's there. But that's where we get to just step in, be in the present, and things start to unfold and create from this bigger picture, from this God view. And we're part of that divinity.
I love that. That's such a beautiful way to approach that. And it's a beautiful way for us to end our show as well. Thank you so much for being such an outstanding guest for us today. I'm so excited that you said yes to being on the show. I hope that we'll be able to have you back and we can talk some more, because I feel like I never get bored of having a conversation about money. And I feel as though our audience never gets bored of having conversation. People are going to want to reach out to you. They're going to want to know how to do that. Can you share with us how they can connect?
Yes, you can find me at prosperityalignment.com. And I'm on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn. So you can search my name, search for Prosperity Alignment. You can learn more about the things that I do or things that I have coming up, or yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And of course, my invitation still stands. I welcome you all to come join us over in the Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group. Just go to growsmarternotharder.com/Facebook and join us every Tuesday right here on the Win-Win Women Network at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And we'll be having conversation just like this every single time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye, everyone.
Bye.